Welcome everybody to this episode. Today's topic is about Starlink, and particularly Starlink in Southern Africa and while overlanding. Our guest is Ellen from Icasa Push. So it's a long one today, but if you can stick it out, I believe it's very interesting. So enjoy. Yeah, I think we can just get into it. You did
sure.
You did get a copy of the questions, and I'm sure these are not unknown to you. These questions that we're going to pose and we're going to be talking about, especially with the whole ambiguity around it in Southern Africa. That's obviously a lot of people are confused. They don't really understand from a Starlink point of view. It is such a game changer. It's the innovation, the openness of the community that it brings, and then we have a country which says no, not allowed.
Right. Well, Dennis, I really hope we can unpack a lot of that ambiguity today. It's certainly, as you mentioned, is a life changer. It's brought families together. It's brought people to the world and the world to people in ways that I could have never imagined. Yes, you're right. There is a lot of ambiguity, and we will talk about that. But on the flip side, the reason why we do what we do is there is absolutely nothing better than logging on for the first thing in the morning and seeing emails like, I could see my nephew for the first time because previously, our Facebook just wouldn't download photos. Or I've now got customers internationally who's buying my handbags because previously we didn't have any other options for internet, or even people working. We can go through lots of these stories, Dennis. I'll bore you all day with these stories, but it's absolutely a life changer in reality for many people since the advent of Starlink. It's a miraculous product.
Yeah, and I firmly see that, and I firmly believe in that as well. So, is there a way, before we get into the detail, to describe in a short sentence? Where are we in it? I'm not talking Southern Africa. I'm talking about South Africa. Where are we with what is the availability conundrum at the moment?
Yeah, because South Africa today is still considered, both from the South African legislative perspective, being primarily a Icasa in our position, but also from Starlink's perspective, we are considered as an unofficial country, or not yet approved region. And what that means is that Starlink is only really available through unofficial channels, like ourselves, or if you have a trusted family friend or a family abroad who can help you acquire a kit. That is the accessibility of it today, unfortunately. Now, we certainly hope that changes in the future, and we've been working very hard at trying to make that happen. But today, that's unfortunately our position as South Africans.
Yeah, very unfortunate. Very unfortunate. Is there any light in the tunnel?
So there is a band of brothers or people, really, of sisters as well, that are working behind the scenes very hard at trying to get Starlink across the line. So this extends to people going on their own accord and lobbying with Icasa. There's certainly we've reached out to Starlink as well and explained to them that we've got all of the elements that they would require, so meaning all of the licensing, ratings, everything that they would require, and we'd be prepared to give them a turnkey solution just to operate here. But it's I think getting those people to the table. So the biggest catalyst I think that we've got at the moment is as part of a light at the end of the tunnel, Dennis, is probably our new administration, with the DA now taking a key seat in that, or driving seat in this whole area. There's light, but unfortunately no definitive light, unfortunately. So we know that Starlink is very active in the southern African region. So for instance, if you go on the Starlink availability map, you will, and you zoom in on the southern African part of their map, what you will see is that all of our immediate neighboring countries, being, Mozambique, of course, they're already approved, but Zimbabwe, Botswana, Namibia, Lesotho, all these countries either have a date of when Starlink will be available in that country, or it is already available. South Africa is the outlier here. There is no date. There used to be a date. The date was pushed out and pushed out and pushed out. And now if you have a look at that availability map, there's no official date or position as to when that unfortunately is going to be available. So it's a bit disheartening, but we will continue to lobby on all of the different sides of this equation to try and make that work.
Yeah, I saw even Lesotho has got a date.
Right. So, we could probably, for your listeners, I'm not sure if links are always available, but we can certainly provide a link to the Starlink availability map if that helps.
Yeah, I'll put it in the description of this podcast as well, and then people can have a look at there as well. It's actually easy to find on the Starlink website.
Yeah. It's just starlink.com /ZS and then /map.
So if it is becoming, and I know that it's legal in other countries around us in Southern Africa, will that cause the chances of disconnecting in South Africa more or less? Or that, we'll get into the whole disconnecting thing, because I know there was a warning from the company itself to say, hey guys, we're going to switch off. But because it's active now in other countries around us, is that to the advantage of us or to the disadvantage of South Africa?
Well, as I mentioned, Starlink is working very hard in the Southern African region, but our official status is not, in my mind, tied to our neighbors, especially from a Starlink perspective or from a government perspective. So it's really a bureaucratic question that, unfortunately, it's not as emotional as what we would like it to be. So I don't see that it will affect us, our status. Our status is officially considered by Starlink as, and I paraphrase, but a non-approved or unapproved region. And so we're effectively earmarked with the likes of Russia and China and the like. And unless there's a specific movement other than just ourselves, I'm talking about governments or Starlink making real inroads, I don't think that status will change, unfortunately. Now, in terms of disconnection, though, I do want to cover that, and I'm not sure if you want to talk about that a little bit later.
No, we can cover it now. There's no problem. Yeah, we can cover it.
So, look, let's talk about this last round of, let's say, disconnection threat. So what effectively happened there is that Starlink have always had a rule in their terms and conditions that highlights that if you are roaming, so let's unpack that a little bit. What does that mean? So there's different types of subscriptions, and we can talk through all of those. But ultimately, roaming means that you have a Starlink kit and a subscription that you are using in a country other than your own because you're traveling. And today, that is the only way that we can get Starlink in South Africa is to subscribe to a roaming. Now, there are other subscriptions that become more expensive, but the most cost-effective method of having a working Starlink solution in South Africa today is to have a roaming subscription. Now, what transpired, though, is that this whole setup is across the globe, of course, so all different countries and regions and areas. Now, unfortunately, what happened in Russia was that the some certain Russians, I believe, has been using Starlink to circumvent sanctions. So there was a U.S. Senate inquiry about all of this, and ultimately they started, in layman's terms, putting the screws into Starlink a little bit about this, saying, "Look, you got to do something about this. We can't have that." Starlink subsequently then sent out in April a 2-week notification to all of the users in unapproved or non-approved regions like South Africa, saying that, hey, we're going to now start affecting or activating the 2-month rule. So firstly, what that means is that if you're using a Starlink on a roaming account, and as I mentioned, you're traveling with that to an unapproved region like South Africa, but you're coming from an approved region like Mozambique or Zambia or so forth, then you can go and take that kit and travel for 2 months around South Africa and go back. But you have to go back after 2 months to let the kit effectively acknowledge that you're back home. So you've only roamed for 2 months. So they gave us a 2-week notice to say, look, at the end of April, starting in May, we're going to now start affecting this rule. So in the background, though, what ended up happening is that so they did a couple of things to prepare for this. So firstly, what they did was they started really working closely together with the Pentagon to try and work out some way of not having to switch off everybody in the world. And remember, this is not just South Africa; it's anybody in the world in an unapproved region. Now, Starlink as a company has only become sort of cash flow positive late last year. So for them, I could just imagine the conversations in their commercial offices when these conversations about applying their 2-month rules started, going through the halls and water cooler discussions and so forth. And ultimately what they ended up doing is they doubled the subscription price for roaming, because they knew that is going to affect the people in the unapproved regions only, and that's effectively the people that they might be losing. Ultimately, though, what's transpired to date is that it looks like the agreement that they have been able to get in place with the Pentagon, or their mitigation actions anyway, seems to have alleviated the concerns from the Pentagon and therefore the U.S. Senate, because that rule up until today has never been applied. So it is uncharted waters for both Starlink as an organization and in terms of how they deal with global policies and laws and politics, as well as for us, unfortunately, as a unapproved country. So I hope that covers it for you, Dennis. But it's a bit of touching on some of those concepts. But please let me know if you wanted to unpack any of that a little bit further.
I think it's pretty clear because they have to group all the unregistered countries or unlicensed country in one bunch. They can't choose to put South Africa and other countries into the same bunch. I mean, there's no sanctions against South Africa, but they are against Russia. So, and that's what they're trying to clamp down on, as far as I understand. So, do you have any idea what is the total percentage of roaming customers for Starlink? Because that obviously, if that's a big number, then the motivation for switching off roaming or unlicensed is a lot less.
Yeah, I mean, I did see an image that highlighted where Starlinks were active all around the world, and it's something that I'll happily send you. But that numbers are fairly well guarded in terms of the actual number of users and so forth. It's not something that's published. There's some fairly educated guesses out there, and I can certainly talk to you about South Africa, as a nation, what my guesses would be there. But in terms of the world, no, I wouldn't know what that answer would be. Unfortunately, no, Dennis.
Yeah, so but I mean the package or the system does lend itself for roaming, and so I'm sure that's quite a large percentage. So if they're gonna now switch the 2 months, if they're gonna apply the 2 month rule, they're gonna lose a lot of customers. And like you said, they've only now started to make profit. So and then they go like 2 steps forward or 1 step forward, 2 steps back.
Yeah, I mean, that's just thinking about the, almost the 2 dimensions of Starlink and ourselves. But there are countries in Africa that have gotten so accustomed to using Starlink that their entire economy is now so dependent on Starlink because there are just absolutely no other options for them. I mean, South Africa, at least we've got options. We've got, in most areas, we've got some options. That being said, though, I do want to emphasize that as South Africans, a third of us have never had access to internet. So 1 in 3 people in our country does not today have internet because it's not available to them.
Staggering.
Yeah. But now imagine that as a whole, almost as a whole country, where only the elite have internet. So now Starlink has come in and really turned that whole apple cart over and introduced a new way of doing business for countries. Like I'm thinking, for instance, I know Cameroon is a very heavy user of Starlink, right? So that whole economy is now influenced by the availability of Starlink. And I think all of these factors certainly must weigh into the decisions. But Starlink, being a Musk company, can be very agile at times, and I'm using agile is probably the nicest word to describe the volatility that we sometimes experience. Dynamic, beautiful word as well. Let's stay with those sort of words. That's the way to go.
All right. So I think so. Obviously, the biggest concern I think that people will have is if they implement 2 month rule, the hardware itself becomes a bit of a brick.
No, that's not the case at all. So there's a couple of strategies that we've uncovered. I mean, you can imagine we've had almost 2,000 customers contact us and say, "Oh, what's going to happen now in May?" In the lead up to the May proposed start date. And so there's a couple of options that we can talk about. But just before we do, I just want to unpack this brick kit option, comment just very quickly before otherwise I may forget. The only brick kits that we have in South Africa is from a supplier that's no longer operational. They've closed their doors. What they did, though, was something that really went against Starlink's copyright laws, and that was to take money on behalf of Starlink for a Starlink service. So in other words, customers would pay this South African company for their subscriptions, and then this company would pay the real price, which is a fraction of what they've been paid, to Starlink for on behalf of those customers. Now that is a big no-no in terms of Starlink's landscape. That is probably up there along with marketing kits as Starlink without being approved by them. So that company was warned on numerous occasions and received cease and desist letters and still ignored all of that. And ultimately Starlink had no choice but to go and disable those kits. So those are the only ones, and we were able to assist some of those people. There's also a Facebook group called Starlink Users South Africa, which is a fairly popular group, and on that group there's another member, I think it's Warren, who found a way of re-enabling his brick kits. But I just wanted to unpack that because the notion of brick kits and having very expensive doorstops and things is something that we talk about fairly frequently just because of that event. Unfortunately, bad news spreads 10 times faster than good news. But yeah, so back just on the 2-month rule and how that could all transpire. So there's a couple of different ways, but I mean, without divulging all of the strategies, because we've never had to launch any of these services, so we'll keep that one under wraps. But a simple way for you to potentially manage this yourself is if you had 2 kits, right? So I know there's a myriad of different options here, but let's just talk about this one for now. So the kit will work. So you switch the kit on as roaming for 2 months, right? So then for the 2 months, 60 days, you've got kit A working. After 2 months, it says, righto, you got to now take kit A back and go and take it to the country or wherever it's hosted. In that event, you just shut it down. You just pause your account subscription, and you leave it on your roof next to your other one, and you activate kit B. So kit B is now taken over and it's operational. So you've got internet, but after a month or for a total of 90 days, what happens then is you get the ability to transfer or unlock kit A and resubscribe it, right? So in that event, you've got a month where it sort of just has to sit and rest, because Starlink's rule is that after 90 days you can transfer it to a different country or a different account or whatever, and you then do that. So but I would probably wait until just before kit B needs to be disabled, so that you can have them on a rolling roster. So I'm fumbling a little bit over my words here, unfortunately, with this one, but I think you get the gist, which is that with by playing by the rules, you can have consistent internet just by having one offset the other. So there's 2 rules at play, one being the 60-day rule, or the 2-month rule, as we call it, and the other one being the transfer rule, which is that if you have an active subscription on a Starlink kit for at least 30 days or 1 month, then you can, after 90 days, reset or transfer that kit.
But then you're basically 30 days short of your. The way I count it, but I could be wrong. You need 3 kits.
No, it's 2. So, let's go through that.
Right? Look, it's not. So for me, we don't have to have the exact detail. It's just that's plan A. You have a plan. If there's questions for people, and they come and they email me, then we can always. There must be something like out there, like a little timeline that we can send them or something like that. So
yes, 100%, no problem.
So that's option A. You have 2 kits and you swap the 2. I'm also just thinking now. A lot of our customers are away for 9 months at a time. So, it becomes critical because they will leave their land, and then they're off for 9 months. They're traveling. Right. They want to go to Europe, or they want to go wherever. And so that kit will never come home to their registered country maybe in 2 years.
Right. I mean, there are alternative options available as well. I'm specifically thinking. So in the long run, the option, the solution that we just discussed, is probably the most economical in the long run. If it is a shorter stints or period of time, though, we've found that mobile priority or even global subscriptions then supersedes your roaming subscription as well. So you can log on and upgrade those accounts and things as and when it's required. But we are talking about a hypothetical at the moment. I just really want to emphasize that none of these rules are in play today. Mm-hmm. So we're speculating about an eventuation of a rule that may never come, right?
Fair enough.
But it is good to prepare, of course, especially if you're going on a 9-month trip. 100% agree. It's better to prepare. But for a person going on a 9-month trip, I would say, look, use your initial your regional roaming as long as you can until you run into trouble. whenever you do run into trouble, you're still going to, with your Starlink kit, you will still be able to access your Starlink account. So your internet may not be accessible to you as a whole, but at least you'll be able to log on to your Starlink account. And by doing that, you can upgrade your subscription to whatever you need it to be for that period, and you can pause and unpause it as you require throughout your holiday. So for people planning a 9-month trip, certainly have a chat with us. There's certainly ways, and means that we can ensure that you've got, well, not ensure, but we can at least give you all of the tricks and tips that we know of to help you best prepare for that holiday.
Fair enough. I will get into, because I have questions as well regarding the difference between the mobile regional, the mobile priority, the roaming.
Yeah.
So we will get into it, just so what would be best for different applications just now, I think. Can I just come back? Sure. You were alluding to this one company that did it wrong. So when I approach your company and I want to do a subscription,
yes.
Can you talk us through that? What happens to my? I'm assuming it's all credit card based. So can you? If you can go through that, what would be the norms?
Absolutely.
What is the expectation for our customers?
Right. So when you order a kit, what we do is we receive the kit in Centurion. We then unpack it. So before we send it off to you. So being a company that's only internet based and not really with any sort of shop front, customer service has become the focal point for us. So we really pride ourselves on trying to always deliver the best customer service that we can. But just taking a quick step back to answer your question. So the reason why we unpack it is so that whenever you open it, you know that whole kit has been tested from top to bottom. All of the required updates that needs to be applied to the kit has been done. The subscription has been set up as a regional roaming, which is the most economic option for you. There's choices we've got all the rates from the different countries and so forth in and around Africa that you can, and if you have a specific preference or you're going to be spending the majority of your time in a specific country, remembering that 2-month rule thing doesn't apply then because you're in the country of your your subscription, but then we can certainly help you out with that as well. Whenever we set up a roaming subscription, we'll look at the rates on that day, and this is affected by foreign exchange rates and so forth. But so certainly we look at that, and then we set that up. Help you just set that up. All we need from you is your email address, because your Starlink account is tied to your email address. We need your phone number, because those are the only two pieces of information that Starlink needs to have a subscription up, to get a subscription up and running. Apologies. At that point, we send out the kit to you. You update that. You log on to your own Starlink account. You then go to your payment preferences section on your Starlink account. You update the card, and most South African cards work. They are a couple that has given us issues over the last little while, but we've been able to ensure that every one of our customers has a working solution for a South African card with their Starlink account. And from that point onwards, that's all over to you. It's purely between you and Starlink. If you have any issues, you're welcome to always come back to us, and we'll certainly help you out. But in all fairness, Dennis, the amount of kits that we've had come back with issues is less than, I would say, less than 0.5%. For a couple of reasons. Firstly, these kits are very well manufactured. The quality of them are impeccable. But secondly, because we test things out before we even send it to you, we ensure that when things get to you, it does work. I know I've probably covered a little bit more than what you intended with that question, but I'm hoping that answers your question on that one, Dennis.
Yeah. So basically, you only as a company get involved in the hardware and assistance at the setup. From there, all financial transactions happen directly with the account, and you guys are not really involved with that. So so it's not like we have to pay you. You pay you for the hardware, and you will have the backup service and the customer service from that. But anything after that, subscription-based, is directly to Starlink.
Correct. Yeah, okay. We're happy to take any initial support related questions. I mean, it's unheard of today to sort of have a company where you just pick up the phone and somebody actually answers and talks to you. So we offer that service for all of our customers. We've got a dedicated team who just does that. But then, we are involved in all of the acquisition, logistics, and testing and setup of these kits. We're not as soon as you start taking money on behalf of Starlink, well, number one, you're in violation of their copyright. But secondly, also, and very importantly, you then become an internet, whether you like it or not, you become an internet service provider, and that paints a fairly big target on your back in South Africa.
Okay. So address is not necessary. You said it's email address and telephone number. Is that correct?
That's it.
Yeah. That's and so address doesn't matter.
No, so that's it.
So you guys, obviously, I believe you are based in Mozambique as a company. I don't know if you want to talk about how you guys are able to do this and not get Icasa on your back or risk to your company?
Sure. Well, we're based in Centurion. We're down the road from Icasa, actually. So that's why if you go and have a look at our Facebook page, you see whenever there's a new Starlink kit that becomes available, we take it up the road to Icasa's front gate, take a picture of it.
I think it's brilliant.
And then we post it. Yeah. So, so that's we're in Centurion up the road from Icasa, and our address is on our website as well. But we don't offer front office services, unfortunately. So it's more of a administrative office. But firstly, we operate in a way that ensures we really get out of our way to ensure that we don't violate any legislation, or as soon as Starlink, in the past have made noise about us calling the kits Starlink, they outsource all of their, their copyright enforcement to an external company in Washington. And they picked up that we had Starlink on our websites, and so we can't call a spade anymore. It's now sparkling. So for all of your listeners, if they ever come across our website and they thought they may be in the wrong location,
it is correct.
Sparkling is what it is. But so we work very hard to ensure that we're not violating anyone's rules. There's no reason for any adverse action against us. Like I said, we're not an ISP. We work. We try to work with the rules as much as what we can. So to date, we've not had any communication or any contact from Icasa. We've not even been invited for a cup of coffee. So that we adhere to the rules, even though we sometimes think it's silly.
Yeah, well, we started off with the conversation like that. We're being left behind. So bureaucrats are there, and they tend to pull you back and not pull you forward. And we have to, obviously, if you want to stay into the technology, we have to do what we have to do.
That's it. Well, you gotta, when you're facing all odds in terms of a government who's not really trying to help you get all of these technology that's emerging throughout the world, we've got to do that for ourselves. Otherwise, we are going to get left behind as a nation. Specifically, if you consider, as we've mentioned earlier in this chat, all of our neighbors are getting it, right? So we are really getting left behind, not even from a global perspective, but even from a Southern African perspective. All of these countries' economies are going to be thriving in terms of their commerce and in terms of their education, their social engagements and so forth. And we've still got a third of the country cut off from internet.
Yeah. Let's leave it there, because otherwise it's going to get a long conversation. That's
and instead of we'll need some liquid courage later if we're going to keep pushing down this road. But yes, Dennis, sorry, you were saying.
I want to get into, because obviously customers and people will look at this and go, right, what will this cost me? So yes, the hardware obviously is an easy choice. You can see the cost. You can choose the different generation. I think second to third generation still available. It's on your website. I'll put a link in the website as well in the description.
Thanks.
And then that's the hardware. Now, obviously, I would like to delve into the connection options, because to me even it gets confusing. I know, and please, I've got it's written down here. If you name it differently, or if I'm wrong, please tell me. So there are basically three main options. One is residential. The other one is roam, and then there's boats. Obviously, I think we can take the boats out. I think that's not for overlanding. I think it's for when you are on the water. So am I right in those three main categories?
So the three main categories, really, if you don't mind me correcting you here, Dennis, is residential, roaming, and then commercial. So residential, it's not available in South Africa. For that, you need an address in an approved country, and then your kit pretty much works where you live. So that is the most economical option by far, but it's not available in South Africa because South Africa is not an approved Starlink country. The same goes for the commercial side of this. So in order to have a commercial Starlink account, again, you need to have a physical address in a country that is Starlink approved. So unfortunately, that's not available either. That being said, though, we have a number of our customers do operate either bigger businesses, even lodges, resorts. We've even got broadcasting in a number of other industries on the that's acquired Starlinks from us as well. And in those cases, what we end up doing is we end up combining more than one kit together through a networking. And I don't want to get too technical here with you today. Just accept that you can take more than one kit and combine the download speeds to ensure that you've got a bigger bandwidth if you want it. And that's what the solution that we offer our commercial entities. Now, in terms of roaming, this is really the only one that applies to Southern Africa, or South Africans at least. This is where we start. So within roaming, there's different options. So you've got your mobile regional, which is your most basic sort of subscription. At the moment, it's about $1,800 a month, subjected to the exchange rates and a number of other and the operating costs within a particular country. So
1,800 rand. It's 1,800 rand.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Right.
Yes, 1,800 rand a month. As I say, that depends a little bit on the operating cost of the specific country that you're targeting to subscribe in. Now, what I mean with that is each country have different operating costs, different sort of tax implications and things. And therefore, even though the product is identical from country A to country B, the price that you pay for that may differ from time to time. Now, it's not a hell of a lot of difference, but sometimes it can be a little bit different. Just for all of your listeners who are potentially looking at countries like Nigeria or Eswatini, please note that in those countries, you actually need a country ID in order to be able to subscribe there. So just something to keep in mind. So, that's the starting point. So around $1,800 a month, which I mentioned earlier, has doubled since April. And that is the doubled number. That is the current number today, 1,800 rand a month. Now, there's no limits on the amount of downloads you can do for that 1,800 months. So in other words, some of the other ISPs in South Africa would say, righto, we're going to give you a specific speed, but after a certain amount of downloads, we're going to throttle you back or deprioritize you. No, that doesn't apply in this case. Your speeds will stay the same, and today on the Gen 3s we get up to about 300 meg per second. But there is a fair use policy that applies, and it's on. In short, if I can really paraphrase it in a sentence, the fair use policy really says, if you are a burden on the whole network for an extended period of time, we will deprioritize you. Now, I've not heard of that being applied to anybody, and people over the Christmas holidays last year, one of our customers in the Western Cape invited all of his family over. I think it was 19 people, and he said, righto, go and try and download as much as you can. And within that Christmas period, they downloaded over 500 gigs, and
Wow.
with no drama. Yeah. But that being said, so that's your most basic and most economical option. There is is your mobile regional. Secondly, is mobile priority. It's a bit more expensive, bit faster, and you do need it sometimes in countries like Botswana or Namibia. That's probably because they are in the process. I'm not sure exactly what the reason is. I'm plucking at straws here, trying to give you a reason as to why. I can only deduce that it's potentially due to those two countries becoming online. Now, boats. So roaming works well for boats, right? Because there's a third type of subscription for roaming, and that's called global roaming. So again, it's about double what you would pay for just mobile regional. So mobile regional is intended to be used on mainland for a specific region. So the whole of Africa, so the entire African continent, as an example, is one region, right? But in terms of boats, theoretically, that mobile regional should only cover you up to about 18 kilometers offshore. But we've got a large population of, people working in Cape Town offshore, and they go up to 200 kilometers offshore, and they've never run out of internet on the mobile regional. However, again, if you are on a boat or planning to go out kilometers offshore on a boat, what I would suggest in that case is, again, stay on your mobile regional until you feel your access is considered to be too far from that region. In that case, log on to your Starlink account, upgrade it to the global roaming. Global roaming is about double what you pay for regional roaming, but it means you can be on the open ocean or anywhere that you want to be. Literally, there's already over 6,000 satellites in low Earth orbit, with plans of going or plans in place for going up to 12,000. Yeah,
right.
That's a bit of an overview.
So you had the mobile regional should work in South Africa, and if there's an issue, for example, like Namibia and Botswana, like you said, you have to switch to mobile priority. You didn't mention the cost. What is that? What's the cost difference there?
Yes, I will tell you. Maybe we'll carry on for a second. I'll come back and I'll look up the price for you.
So, if the mobile priority, it's not like it's not like the boats one. So that says it's a global thing. And you're not sure. What about if you go further north than Namibia, Botswana? Will there be countries where a mobile regional would be active again and would work?
Yeah, mobile regional is active everywhere on the African continent except for the DRC. So the DRC is the only country who said, "Listen, we wouldn't like Starlink here." So Starlink said, "Fine, we appreciate that. Let's leave that." And so they've disabled the service in DRC. There are other countries, around the world, but I'm specifically speaking about Africa. That's the DRC.
All right. So, and theoretically, mobile region should have worked in Namibia, Botswana, but because of reasons unknown, or they're moving, they're migrating, it doesn't work.
Yeah, it's not consistent though either. We have people who use mobile regional, and it works fine in Namibia and Botswana and all these places. But then in some cases, and again, I can't tell you what it is, but we've just encountered probably about 10 to 15% of people have issues in those two countries, and the solution that seems to work for them is mobile priority data. So mobile priority data, I'm just having a quick look. So in Zambia, it's about 3,528 rands for 50 gigabytes.
So double.
That's a current price.
Almost double.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
but this time it's not unlimited. It is. It's only for 50 gigs. So it's per 50 gig that you want to. Yeah.
Okay. So if you switch to mobile priority, you should work the whole of African continent. That should work everywhere. I know it's more expensive. But
yeah. Look.
If I need internet and I need to make sure I have, no matter what the case, would I be confident that mobile priority will work everywhere?
Well, the beauty of this whole thing is, as I mentioned earlier, is that even if you find that your Starlink kit is not providing you the internet that you expected at a point in time, right? So in other words, you go into Namibia, you've driven through the border post, you're 200 k's, you're in the middle of the desert. There is no mobile reception. You have no other means of communication, and you find that, oh crap, I wish I had mobile priority data. Well, all you do in that case is you take your kit out, you point it at the stars, and you will have access to your Starlink account. So you can go and update it there and then. You don't have to preemptively go and pay additional money for because you're worried that maybe you will or maybe you won't have access. So do it when you need it is what I would suggest. But yeah, it's. That would be my approach to this.
But it's guaranteed internet all over the continent.
Yeah, it's all over the world, really.
Yeah,
depending on your on your subscription. But mobile regional works everywhere in Africa.
Yeah,
except for DRC.
DRC. Yeah, and that's why you need a mobile priority.
Yeah, and remember, this is subject to change at any time, right? So this is information is active as of right now.
Okay. All right, that is pretty clear to me. I think to the listeners as well that it's you can always go to the app. You can always change the subscription if there's an issue for whatever reason they have, and then you have internet back again. Does it take long? Is there like a day or like a lead time?
Instant.
Instant.
Yep.
Perfect.
It's instant. Yep. It is. It's really a revolutionary service. Honestly, I mean. People talk about job satisfaction, right? Now, I never really understood it until I started working with Starlink. Honestly, it's changed. It changes everybody's life that I know that uses it. It's really it puts a smile on my face every day.
I can believe it. I really can. It's absolutely, and that's I mean, when I saw this happening years ago, I said, this is going to be awesome. This is going to be such a game changer. Absolutely. From all perspective, like you said, I mean, schools, businesses, broadcasting, safety. I mean, just safety. Yeah. I mean, you can carry on and on and on. Why we're holding back in South Africa is a complete unknown to me. Anyway,
I think that just as a punctuation on that, Mark, I think this is a legislative problem across every industry in South Africa and every sort of market. It's not a unique Starlink problem, unfortunately. The BEE rules are there for a reason, and they were defined and designed at the time with the best of intent, right? But unfortunately, the reality is that there are some services, innovations, and technologies that, as South Africans, we will not ever be able to muster like this, right? So, and nobody else in the world is even coming close to to offering a similar thing. Now, I know that the Chinese are working on their version of it. Certainly, Mr. Bezos is working on his version, but it's not the same quality. It's not the same speed. It's not the same price, and it's not active. It's not available. So the net result for me is that as South Africa, we need a circuit breaker to say, righto, we are with best intentions going to apply our BEE rules and laws, as much and as far as what we can, but we have to accept that we are not, able to always do everything that is available around the world. In that case, how do we accommodate that to let our South Africans get access to these services? And maybe that's not the most eloquent way of phrasing my thoughts here, but ultimately, I think as a nation, we need a circuit breaker for innovations that we don't have access to otherwise.
I fully agree. And if there was communication coming out to say, we're working on it, I think it would also alleviate a lot of all of the questions. But there's just nothing. There's just a no, and there's nothing else.
Yeah, look, we can all vote, and that's the best thing you can do as South Africans. Go and vote.
Let's. I think, Ellen, let's leave it at that. I would love to reserve a follow-up if there's many questions.
Absolutely.
If you're available, that we can discuss some questions and concerns or anything else. Yep. If we get communication back from the listeners to go, guys, can you cover this and this and this? Yep. I would love to push on your button to go, Ellen, can we have another conversation?
Anytime. It's a pleasure talking to you, Dennis. And as mentioned earlier, if anybody has specific questions, if you get questions, Dennis, of course, I'll be happy to come and talk to you. But we offer every customer who reaches out to us the option to have a conversation. Again, something that we're quite proud of because it's not the norm in the industry. So every person who reaches out to us on either WhatsApp, which is our main way of communication, or Facebook or email or wherever they come from, we offer everybody the same conversation. So happy to have a chat, and even yourself, Dennis, don't have to wait for an invitation onto your podcast. If you ever feel like you have a quick question, just give me a call, mate, sure. and I'll happily have a chat.
I've used the WhatsApp service that you guys offer, and it's been quick and it's been decisive.
Good.
So no, it was great.
Oh, good. Thank you. It's good to hear.
Yeah.
We've got
works.
We thank you. I appreciate that feedback.
Ellen, thanks very much.
Right.
And
you too. Thanks, Dennis.
Go well.